You know how we've been following this strange disappearance of a retired Air Force general with these apparent connections to military technology and the UFO program? Well, right now we have some updates. We have a new timeline. Apparently there is a new photo of him, and his wife is speaking out. We're trying to get to the bottom of the theories, the investigation, and what may be going on here. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, real quick before we jump further into this, I gotta tell you about this app called Upside. It's unbelievable. I think it's a game changer, actually. Why? Because Upside gets you cash back. Yes, extra cash back on everyday purchases like gas, groceries, takeout. So here's what you do. You download Upside for free. You claim an offer of one of their 100,000 plus locations, and you pay like normal with your card. You verify the purchase, and just like that, money back. So say I need to get gas or I want takeout one night, I'm gonna search for Upside offers first, and after I spend, money appears in my app that I can then transfer right into my bank account. And plus, Upside's frequent users, they earn an average of $254 back a year. So to start getting your cash back, click the link in the description or scan the QR code and make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. So a retired Air Force general vanishes from his home in the middle of the day. There's no phone, there's no glasses, no sign of a struggle, just gone. Now again, we've covered a lot of strange stories on Sidebar, of course. This one feels different. We were following it from the very beginning, back when it was just a silver alert and a worried family. And a silver alert, usually issued for older adults, more vulnerable adults. Sometimes there's health issues involved, but this is weird. And this is all before the internet started, spinning theories. But here's where the story takes a turn. This missing man is William Neil McCasland. And this is a new photo that authorities have just released showing what they believe McCasland was wearing right before he disappeared. And I want you to get a good look at this picture here, okay? Because McCasland didn't just serve in the Air Force. He once commanded the exact laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the same base where conspiracy theorists have long claimed is where the government secretly stored wreckage from Roswell, the Roswell Incident. But it gets stranger, because McCasland's name shows up in hacked emails between Hillary Clinton's former campaign manager, John Podesta, and Blink-182 guitarist Tom DeLonge discussing UFO disclosure. And then just days before McCasland disappeared, President Donald Trump announced plans to release government UFO files. Coincidence? Maybe. But also, how do I not talk about that? Is something far stranger happening out in the New Mexico desert? Was he taken by a bad actor who wanted the information that he had? Or is this a tragic circumstance? Is this a personal circumstance? We have been tracking this case since day one, and now with all of these theories piling up and still no sign of McCasland, we're going to try to break down everything that people are saying online, right? From kidnapping to a possible national security issue to, yes, the mothership, that comes up too. So we're going to get a guest on who's going to help kind of separate what's real, what's speculation, what investigators might actually be looking at right now, because trust me, you're not going to believe where this story goes. And we actually have some new information that was just released from the Bernalillo County Sheriff, giving us a bit more information on McCasland's whereabouts prior to his disappearance. I mentioned a timeline. So I want to take you back to where all this started with what we are now learning about this timeline. So we have Friday, February 27th. It's a quiet morning in the foothills of Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Sandia Mountains are right there, beautiful, rugged, the kind of place people move to for the views, the access to the outdoors. Now, according to the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, which is the lead agency on this case, here's how the timeline breaks down, okay? Around 10 a.m., a repairman arrives at a home on Quail Run Court for a scheduled job. And while he's there, he interacts with the homeowner, a 68-year-old retired Air Force general named William Neil McCasland. That interaction is confirmed, and it is apparently the last confirmed sighting of him. About an hour later, at around 11:10 a.m., McCasland's wife leaves the house for a medical appointment. And when she returns just before 12:04 p.m., the house is empty. Now, according to friends who spoke with the Dayton Daily News, McCasland is the kind of guy who loves the outdoors, an avid hiker, a skier, biker, someone comfortable navigating the rough terrain. So at first glance, you might be thinking, okay, maybe he just stepped out for a walk or an activity. But this is where it gets strange, because according to the sheriff's office, McCasland left behind his phone, which was still sitting on the counter, his prescription glasses, his wearable devices, including his Apple Watch, all still inside the home. So for someone to walk out the door in 2026 without those things, it's a little weird, right? And by around 3 p.m. that afternoon, his wife reports him missing. And investigators, they quickly issue what is known as a silver alert. Early information suggested that McCasland might have had some kind of medical issue, which led many people to assume, his age. Does he have dementia or Alzheimer's, some sort of mental health condition? But we're going to come back to that because his wife would later address that directly and make it very clear that was not the case. But you do have a missing person. You have a retired Air Force Major General. And according to his official U.S. Air Force biography, this is a guy who spent 34 years working on some of the most sensitive technology the U.S. military has: astronautical engineering, space acquisition, the National Reconnaissance Office, the spy satellite people, the Pentagon, eventually command of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. Again, that's the lab that, according to his bio, managed a $2.2 billion science and technology program, plus another $2.2 billion in customer-funded research and development. And here's why that matters for the UFO connection, because according to an article that was published by Ohio State University, Wright-Patterson was the headquarters of Project Blue Book, the government's 17-year investigation into UFOs that looked at nearly 13,000 reported sightings. That's been the report. And for decades, conspiracy theorists have claimed that that is where the government took the debris from the Roswell Incident in 1947. So those claims, I will be clear, have never officially been confirmed, but the association's there. So day one comes and goes. There's no signs of him. Day two, day three, nothing. And then the searches begin. According to the sheriff's office, they started canvassing the neighborhood. We're talking more than 700 homes, going door to door, asking for ring camera footage, security video, anything that might have caught a glimpse of McCasland leaving the area. Drone operations, helicopter support, ground searches with search and rescue teams, K-9 units, horses, volunteers. They're scouring the foothills, the trails, the open space around his home. And then on March 7th, more than a week into the search, investigators find something. The sheriff's office reported they located a gray U.S. Air Force sweatshirt about 1.25 miles east of McCasland's residence. They collected it, they processed it, and according to their statement, no blood was detected during initial analysis, and additional testing is pending. They also noted that the family has not been able to confirm the sweatshirt actually belonged to McCasland, but it was enough to send search teams back out to that area. And by the 2-week mark, the sheriff's office releases this new photo showing McCasland wearing a button-up shirt. This is very, very crucial, by the way, because this is the shirt that investigators now say they believe he was wearing when he disappeared. So I want you to get a good look at this picture here, okay? They also confirm some other items are unaccounted for, like his hiking boots, his wallet, a .38 caliber revolver with a leather holster. And meanwhile, the FBI is also now involved. According to BCSO, the Albuquerque field office started assisting. The Air Force Office of Special Investigations is also looped in. New Mexico State Search and Rescue, Albuquerque Mountain Rescue. It's a multi-agency effort now. And still, according to the sheriff's latest update, there's no confirmed sightings, no video of him leaving, no direction of travel, nothing as far as we can see, at least as far as they're coming out with information. And that is when the internet started doing what the internet does. Because when a retired Air Force general with ties to Wright-Patterson disappears under mysterious circumstances and his name happens to appear in hacked emails discussing UFO disclosure, that's when people start to talk, right? And trust me, they have. From kidnapping to national security theories to, yes, alien abduction. So what exactly are people claiming happened here? And what does McCasland's wife have to say about all of this? That is what we're going to get into next, because while the internet has been running wild with speculation, his wife finally broke her silence. And what she said is, well, let's just say she addressed the elephant in the room head on, and she brought up the thing that everybody's been asking about, the aliens. Before we even get to that, and before we even get into the theories, we wanted to bring in somebody who can help us understand what might actually be happening behind the scenes, because it's very easy to get lost in the UFO chatter, right? But at the end of the day, there are real investigations working this case. You have a missing persons case. How different is this one compared to other ones? This is why I now want to bring in private criminal defense investigator Billy Lane. Such a pleasure to always have him. Billy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this. Do you find it strange that he hasn't been found?
No. A lot of it depends on the area in which he went missing from. We've had searches that go on for months. Typically within 30 days is a normal good time frame to try and locate somebody and bring them back home. So as you had mentioned, there's a lot of chatter going on with this search, with the disappearance of him. And I think sometimes that brings in good and bad, because it can bring in additional resources like the federal government, like the military. But the bad part is that sometimes you lose focus on the fact that this is a missing man. Just like in a lot of other cases, he's a dad, he's a brother, husband, a friend who possibly chose to leave his home on his own accord, and is either in a location where he's had a medical emergency, he's had an accident, or unfortunately he's chosen to cause potential self-harm to himself.
But again, if you have all of these agencies looking for him and all of this attention, even if you had a situation like that, how could he not be found? I mean, does it suggest more likely that he was taken?
I'm not quite sure if I buy into that theory, because he's armed. Number one, he has a gun on him. From what we're hearing, there's no.
Well, I mean, maybe we can't account for the gun, but maybe.
Correct. He's been trained. He knows what he's doing. I feel like he would fall higher in the possibilities of self-defense than your average person based on his history in the military. Okay, I believe if that was the case and he was taken, you're going to see some struggle. You're going to see some indications that he did not want to go with this person. What's very concerning in this case is that he left his glasses, he left his phone, he left his watch. And when it all boils down, we see this a lot in our cases. We try not to focus on the noise. We try to focus on the individual, and that he, like a lot of other people, leave their devices and walk away from them. Why do they do that? Well, they don't want to be tracked. They don't want to be followed. They don't have any intent to communicate with anybody unless they return. So that's concerning. And we see that a lot of times in these cases where people want to go into the woods and, and do their own thing.
Two parts about this. The photo that was released. A, how significant is that? And B, why release a photo like this now as we're so far into this investigation?
I think they want to jog people's memory. I think they want people to sort of look at the picture and see if they remember seeing him in those clothes or in that state. There's several pictures of him being released out here. Some of them are older pictures. So you want the most recent picture to try and jog somebody's memory and see if they did see him. I think it's very significant that, that they are looking for Ring doorbell camera video, because what you're trying to do, you're trying to get a direction of travel. Which way was he heading? Where was he heading to? Where's the last point in which we knew he was at? That's very important to us. Like I tell everybody, and I think we've said this before, it's not about the who and the why and the possibilities. It's about the where. Right. Where that last spot that he was at is the most important thing.
The sweatshirt that was found, a little over a mile east of his home, discovered on March 7th, no blood in the initial processing. Family can't confirm if it's his. A, how do you handle a piece of evidence like that? And how significant do you think it is here?
You collect it like it's a piece of evidence in a criminal investigation. You preserve it and try to get it in to be processed. The most important thing is hit his DNA on that shirt, if they've done that. And also you need to, it's not the end all be all, because you don't know if it's his or not. So you have to document where it's at, and you have to consider that as part of your search. For us, the most important thing is confirmed last known location. Now, the shirt could potentially confirm that he was there at some point, but that hasn't happened yet. So you have to consider the possibility that it could be involved. So you need to search that area. But the most important place is the home, and how, and not for nothing, but he's a very athletic individual based on reports. He hikes, he does a lot of things outdoors. So what is his potential to be able to get to a certain location? How far could he have went? Normally for us, it's about 2 miles. For this gentleman here, it could be 10 miles. What did he take with him? Did he take any supplies with him that he could have lasted longer, more days? Maybe he wants to get away. Maybe he wants to get farther into the mountains. There's a lot of possibilities, but each one of those helps us determine, how far our search parameters are going to be. Typically, they're within 2 miles for your average person.
So authorities, I thought this was interesting. They've expanded to the neighborhood. They're canvassing more than 700 homes. They're asking for security footage from this specific window, right? February 27th to the 28th, between 9 a.m., 2 p.m. As far as we can see, they also say they don't have confirmed video of him leaving that area, no direction of travel, nothing, as far as they're telling us, unless maybe they're not revealing some information to the public. But this is 2026, you have cameras. How is it possible they can't capture him?
Path of travel, you'd have to look at where the home is. We have a lot of people who go out the back doors. They know where some of the cameras are. If they really want to circumvent the cameras, they can. And the other possibility is that, he got in a car with someone, or he somehow got out of the neighborhood, wasn't captured on the cameras.
Do you think about that too when you look at the short time frame between when the wife left and when she came back home?
Yeah, but also if I wanted to go do something and it wasn't the best choice in the world, maybe I want to do that when my wife leaves. Maybe that's the prime opportunity time for me to walk out the door and not be stopped by my wife or by somebody who loves me, because maybe I'm having a crisis at the moment. Maybe I do want to do something that's not the best choice.
Let me ask you about some of the theories, and I'm going to start with it because it's important to address it. I can't not address it when we're talking about this man with this career and the timing of it. So the idea, one of the theories is, this is a guy who knew things, deeply classified things. Whether you want to say it's outdated information or not, you could still make the argument valuable information, national security information that he was taken. So when you think about that, we talked earlier about his Air Force bio, 34 years, the National Reconnaissance Office, command of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson. I talked about the billions of dollars that was assigned to here that he was overseeing, right? He has all of this classification. He has this know-how. When you think about a potential foreign actor or a foreign party or a bad actor who might want that information, does that seem plausible to you? I mean, you mentioned before why you don't think it's likely he was taken, but if we're trying to navigate the possibility that he had information that was valuable, is that something that's being considered, and how is it being investigated and considered?
I would say absolutely it has to be considered. You have to run that to ground. You have to prove that that's not the case here. And that's where you're seeing the FBI potentially coming in, law enforcement are taking that into consideration. But the question you have to ask yourself is, why now? He's been retired for some time. Why did they take the opportunity at this moment in time to come get him? Why didn't this happen before? Maybe when he had more access to more information than he does now. So that's a major consideration. And as a police detective and federal agent, you have to run that to ground to figure out whether or not this is a possibility. Is it a bad actor? Are there other things in play? And are you really going to release that information if that truly is the case? You're going to keep that close to your chest.
Let me ask you about what the wife said. So his wife addressed this directly in her post on Facebook, as well as other things she said, and I'm quoting here, "He retired from the AF almost 13 years ago and has had only very commonly held clearances since. It seems quite unlikely that he was taken to extract very dated secrets from him." What do you make of that? I mean, first of all, that she's responding online, and B, that there is no value to what information he might have.
I think she's trying to shut down the noise. I think that's exactly what she's trying to do. She wants people, the community, she wants law enforcement to focus on the fact that he's a man who walked away from his home and is out there somewhere and he needs our help. And that's exactly what I would be doing too if I was his loved one and I had that information. Because if not, you're going to have law enforcement, you're going to have all the search teams in these rabbit holes thinking that, well, somebody's taking him somewhere when maybe he's actually right out there in those mountains, right out there in that area where he knows he's been to before. Maybe he finds peace and tranquility there. So at this point, I think it would need to be all hands on deck and a lot of feet on the ground, if you will.
So let me ask you about now the UFO angle. I have to ask you about this, okay? And specifically the timing of this. Let me lay it out for everybody. On February 19th, President Trump posted on Truth Social. He says he's directing the Secretary of War and other agencies to begin identifying and releasing government files related to UFOs and UAPs and extraterrestrial life. February 26th, the day before McCasland vanishes, Hillary Clinton sits for a deposition in the House Epstein investigation. And during that deposition, she is asked about UFO disclosure, about John Podesta's interest in it. And she responds, and let me play that clip again.
When your husband was president, it was Lawrence Rockefeller had an effort to try to disclose UFOs, UAPs. When you were running for president, John Podesta publicly stated that you would disclose these files if given the chance, if you had been president. Are you pleased to see that these files may be disclosed finally?
I am pleased.
Now that's the deposition date, February 26th. Next day, February 27th, McCasland is reported missing. So just to be clear here, we are looking at the timeline. Investigators are not saying these events are connected. We're just simply examining them for their relevance as pertains to a potential timeline. Billy, is any of that relevant?
Absolutely. That falls into the why, potentially. this might have triggered a anxiety situation for him that he may have to go testify. He may be questioned about his activities after he's retired. So this could have been an anxiety situation that triggered some type of scenario where he felt like he needed to leave. He needed to get out of the spotlight and potentially could have made bad choices to cause harm to himself over this scenario. As you can imagine, he's lived his entire life doing this. He's had these clearances. He's done things that others only theorize about. So now I find it very concerning that this happened so close to the release of this information. Absolutely.
By the way, his wife addressed this Podesta connection indirectly in her post. She said, after the Russians hacked John Podesta's emails, see Neil's Wikipedia page, there was less contact with the community pushing for release of UFO information. And she mentions the Russian hack of the emails. We're going to get to that in a minute. But she doesn't directly address the timing of the disappearance relative to the Clinton deposition or Trump's announcement. But she makes note of this in a certain way. What did you make of it?
There again, I think she's just trying to explain away some of the scenarios. And like I said, I think there's a lot of noise. Anybody can have access and get a hold of your emails. Like, we've seen before. We've seen this happen. We've had this conversation about leaks in the government and leaks of information. And I think she's just trying to shut down the fact that he's not part of this. This wasn't his life, that he might have not been actively involved like the pictures being painted. And there again, he may be just a normal man who used to do an extraordinary job, and now he is missing, and we need to focus on the fact that he walked out of his home like any other person might have. A lot of noise creates a waste of resources sometimes. And sometimes you need to bring those resources back in and focus on the basic facts of what's going on.
It is so weird, though. Like, the timing is so weird and circumspect. I get it. I totally get it. And I would say the one, when we think about this, that ties everything together, this UFO connection, I just want to amplify it a little bit. And I want to be careful here, again, because there is a lot of material, and his wife actually addressed most of it directly in her post. But I want to start with what we seem to know. This is according to the WikiLeaks emails from 2016. Tom DeLonge, the Blink-182 guitarist turned UFO researcher, reached out to John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman. And in one email that was dated January 25th, 2016, the subject line reads, General McCasland. And here's what DeLonge apparently wrote. He mentioned he's a skeptic. He's not. I've been working with him for 4 months. I just got done giving him a 4-hour presentation on the entire project a few weeks ago. Trust me, the advice has already been happening on how to do all this. He just has to say that out loud, and he is very, very aware as he was in charge of all the stuff. When Roswell crashed, they shipped it to the laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. General McCasland was in charge of that exact laboratory up to a couple years ago. He not only knows what I'm trying to achieve, he helped assemble my advisory team. He's a very important man. And McCasland's wife confirmed the connection. Part of that post reads, it is true that Neil had a brief association with the UFO community through Tom DeLonge, former frontman for Blink-182 and founder of the organization To the Stars. Neil worked with Tom for a bit shortly after his Air Force retirement as an unpaid, Neil's choice, consultant on military and technical scientific matters to lend verisimilitude to Tom's fiction book and media activities. Neil does not have any special knowledge about the ET bodies and debris from the Roswell crash stored at Wright-Pat. Though at this point, with absolutely no sign of him, maybe the best hypothesis is that aliens beamed him up to the mothership. However, no sightings of a mothership hovering above the Sandia Mountains have been reported. Now, obviously, she's being sarcastic there towards the end. She's pointing something out here. But Billy, I guess I have a couple of questions here. A, and I hate to say this, would she know? Would she know? Would a husband share this information with her? B, would she tell the truth to the public about this? Or C, if she really is, she didn't even have to be that specific, but she did. So maybe she does have this information, is trying to dispel it in some way in order, like you say, for people to focus on what they need to with respect to this investigation. So let's start there. I mean, you see what I'm trying to say?
Would she know? Even though we have top secret clearances in the government, your spouses still understand sort of what's going on without being told. You know this. When you come home, your wife sort of knows what's going on. They can sort of read into you. I believe she sort of knows. Did she know the exact details of things? Maybe not, but they always sort of know. So yes, I think they sort of know about what goes on in their person's life, their spouse's life. Um, I just I don't know if the time that's passed between when he did this and his life now still connects him to the point where he's the most experienced at the subject in which we're dealing with here.
Right.
I think there's other people that they could have went to if they wanted to exploit information from that could have a better effect than this gentleman.
So two thoughts about that. One, maybe he's in a more vulnerable position, and that was maybe why. But also, you know, I'm trying to process this and see if it makes sense. How do investigators actually thoroughly look into all this? Would the sheriff's office have, you know, the ability to go snooping around Wright Air Force Base, you know, Wright-Patterson? I don't think so. You have the feds involved, FBI. This almost feels like a movie in a way where you're trying to find something bigger. Aren't they going to be limited in learning more about what he was researching, what his career was like? It's not like he worked as an accountant.
So you'll have the FBI working with military, federal investigators, CID, NCIS. And what's going to happen is that there's going to be certain things that the FBI is going to have to stop at where the military, federal law enforcement is going to pick up from. So they together will meet somewhere in the middle and share as much as they can. As you know, a clearance is a need-to-know basis. And there's some things that I'm sure he was involved in that no one has the clearance to understand. But there has to be an investigation. Local law enforcement is not going to be able to. They can give you the basics. Hey, the home looked like there was no, signs of struggle. The basic investigation in a neighborhood where they're gathering cameras and trying to view witnesses. But when it gets to the top secret spaceship in a garage somewhere, they're not going to get to that point. That stuff's going to be handed off to the FBI. Then the FBI is going to work it from there, moving into military law enforcement.
I just want to ask you this final point, since I interviewed him on my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live. This one comes from investigative journalist Ross Coulthard, who works with News Nation as well. He has kind of been sounding the alarm on this case in a big way. I mean, on his podcast, and again, he mentioned this on my show, but his podcast, Reality Check with Ross Coulthard, he called McCasland's disappearance, and I'm quoting here, a grave national security crisis. And he said, if you were Russia or you were China, God forbid, General Neil McCasland would be one of your targets. So I sincerely hope that's not the case. So Billy, real quick, what do you make of that one? It's very similar to what we're talking about, but Ross is very well respected in the field. Your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. And there is a need for concern. The man knew a lot, he dealt with a lot, and he still knows a lot. So, I mean, that's the reason I think you're seeing the FBI and the military in this search for two reasons. Number one, it's because of who he is and the information he had available to him. Number one. Number two, you're seeing it out of respect for his position. I think that's the reason you're seeing the military out there helping to search for him. Out of respect, this man was a general, that he spent so many years in the military. Just like a police officer go missing, you would see the same thing. But there again, you're also seeing them do the search, do the investigation. And sometimes one sort of covers up for the other. So you're not really understanding which one are you seeing. Are you seeing it out of respect, or is this a federal investigation that they're trying to keep covered up and using we're out here searching for him out of respect to cover up the fact of the investigation?
I want to get one more theory. I lied. One more thing. This one's a little different. It's not really a theory about why he disappeared, but about a possible where. So we did a deep dive through Facebook. We came across a comment from March 2nd, and a woman responding to one of the wife's updates who says she might have seen him. Here's what she wrote, and I'm reading this directly from her comment. I reported that I had seen someone fitting this description on Friday at about 11 a.m. at the Whitewash Trailhead, Piedra Lisa Canyon, and gave the physical location of the parking area. The man I saw was near the bridge over the arroyo, just at the beginning the trail from the parking area. He was off to the side, not on the trail, maybe 20 feet from me. I thought something seemed a bit off with the man, like not fully engaged, but I didn't speak to him. Now, she posted this on March 2nd. She said she already reported it to BCSO. But again, here we are weeks later. The sheriff's office still has no confirmed sightings. What do we make of this?
It's important. It needs to be investigated. We get a lot of sightings when we have missing people, but I'll tell you, a lot of those sightings are not the people. We've had people swear to us that this person was 2 feet in front of them and they knew exactly it was them and it really was not them. And we encourage people to give information like this because it's a possible lead. But there again, it's a possible lead. It's not the end all be all. Go out there, investigate it, try to see if this really was him and base that on what he was wearing at the time and what he left wearing at the time. Did he change clothes? People really don't do that. So yes, get out there, make sure it's right, make sure it's him. If it's not him, keep moving on, keep those feet on the ground, start searching.
Billy, thank you so much for taking the time. Before I let you go, tell everybody a little bit more about your organization and the work that you do, because I think you've given a sample of how much of an expert you are in this and how valuable it is, the work that you do. So if you can tell everybody a little bit more.
Absolutely. We run a nonprofit called We Are the Essentials for the Missing. You can visit wearetheessentials.com. You can learn about our mission. We go out and we work as private investigators, former law enforcement officers, military service members, free for families of missing people. Our job is to get boots on the ground. We search, we locate, we rescue, and we recover. No matter what, we do our best to live on purpose through Christ to help bring the missing home for families, to give them answers so they can have peace.
Billy Lane, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you always having us on.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also follow us on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody.